So you guys, this podcast has been really difficult for me. On the one hand, I'm still kind of looking for some community leaders to reach out to because there are lights I want to shine, areas where queer leaders are making a difference to make sure everyone feels accepted. I want to find ways to find community in the LGBT community so people aren't isolated by only using apps. That being said, by far the most popular episode of the podcast is the one where I was analyzing my friend Chris and kind of going through his dating problems. However, I've had a little bit of a hard time finding someone who is kind of willing to come on and let me coach them. Most people don't want to put their business out there in the internet for hundreds of strangers to hear. The other option, of course, is for me to talk about my dating life. And I know like Dan Savage, who I greatly admire, doesn't do that because it creates issues with his husband. And then I'm thinking for me, I don't want people being like, oh, I don't want to go on a date with him because it's going to be in his podcast. So that puts me in a bit of a pickle. That being said, I'm kind of going to throw caution to the wind. I do not do this all the time, but I'm doing it this one time because I felt the pain was so real and so intense for me, and it was so unlike anything I've experienced before that I kind of needed to share it. But I also had to spend some time reflecting about what's the lesson learned. And as I reflected, I found that surprise, surprise, I'm not the innocent angel I sometimes think I am, right? So with that said, let's just jump right in. This podcast was originally going to be themed, how do you know if you're dating a drug addict? And as I kind of worked with that, unfortunately, I couldn't find like a criteria, right? Like I couldn't point to a list. It was like, aha, do you know what I mean? The flip side was then what other lesson is learned if I can't like come to you guys with like 4 warning signs that, your boyfriend secretly goes to chemsex parties. So it was, I couldn't find a nice, tidy little list, but the impact of what just happened was so profound. It was like I had to talk about it. So if you haven't figured out what's happened, I nearly fell in love with someone I suspect might have a drug abuse problem. Now, I don't know that for sure. I haven't seen it or witnessed it, but that happened. There was a massive blow up. And that's over. And I'm still kind of left with what really went wrong. And was it really a substance abuse issue or was it something else? So let me kind of jump right in. So I met this guy on an app. What initially attracted me to him was he just had amazing communication skills. And I know that's a weird thing for me to say, and that's not something like you would put on a Grindr profile. Like, I'm really great at working through an issue. But the way he could talk to me and relate to me was very different. Like, sometimes I feel like, I write books about the very topic of gay guys sabotage themselves. They will see a molehill and declare it's a mountain and just throw the whole thing away. But I met this guy, and he had gone through a number of really difficult traumas in his life, and he'd had such a powerful attitude going through the trauma that I thought, wow, if I went through that, I would be a wreck. I got to get to know this guy. And when we met, he was just as cute as his photos, which is massive, but we connected emotionally in a way I've not connected emotionally. I haven't years is the short of it. Probably off the top of my head, 5 or 6 years. That doesn't mean I can't love other people, but just that instant click. And it wasn't physical. Sometimes the guy's just gorgeous and you get butterflies in your stomach. It was an emotional connection. And then what was there for me was, is it all one-sided? Because the other thing is, what I've noticed at least about myself is you can be kind of falling for someone, but not realize like they're not into you. So it seemed like it was mutual. The flip side was the obstacle was he was working his way through law school. So he had to pay his own bills. So he has to work weird hours and that kind of got in the way. So I get that he was busy. So I gave him some space. And then, we were supposed to have a date. He tried to cancel it. And I was like, look, mate, if you are genuinely that busy, just say so and we'll keep it casual, or it won't develop into anything. Later that day, he then showed up at my door with flowers. Now, it's been a while since I've received flowers from a man. And the last few times I can remember, it tends to come like it's an anniversary or Valentine's Day. One of these times where you're kind of obligated to get your boyfriend or partner, husband, something to mark the occasion. I can't remember the last time someone got me flowers as a romantic gesture. Now, this is where I started to get in trouble myself, because I could then feel myself really falling hard. And I could feel myself losing control a little bit. And on the one hand, I didn't know the right thing to do. The other hand, like he's ticking the boxes, right? Like here he is contributing to me. Like here's something else he said to me. We were kind of talking, and like I said, I was trying to suss out whether or not it was all one-sided. And he was like, I think you're being I think that's a defense mechanism on your part. Like you can be vulnerable around me. Whew. You guys, I was floored. That was next level stuff he dropped on me. And I was not expecting that. And then it was, you know what I mean? So in some sense, he was the full package. And here he had just professed his desire to be romantic with a bouquet of flowers. So a couple days later, we're at his birthday party. I couldn't stay long. I just kind of breeze in. His friend comes up and talks to me. He's talking to other people. And the friend asked, like, oh, how's it going? And I was like, oh, I don't know. And I said, I've got some concerns. And before I could elucidate those concerns, she said, oh, is it the drugs thing? And I was like, drugs thing? Because in my head, it's just the scheduling. So I'm just thinking like, oh, maybe it's just marijuana or something like light like that. You know what I mean? Like it's legal in 50 states. So I don't want to get on a moral high horse about it. I just left it at that, changed the subject. The next day, I text him and say, how was the rest of your birthday party? This is all via WhatsApp. So usually on WhatsApp, for people who don't have it, particularly people in America, it shows when you were last online and it shows when the person's read the message. So he reads the message, no response. So I'm like, okay, well, he's probably hungover, whatever. So I wait 6 hours and I'm like, that must be one heck of a hangover. He looks at it, no response. Then it comes to like another 4 hours after that. I was just like, hey, just let me know you're okay. I'm not trying to impinge on your time with your friends. Just let me know that you're okay. No response. And at that point, he keeps checking the message, but not responding. So I'm getting upset. And I, probably not the most wisest thing, but I said, it's a little bit cruel to show up on my doorstep with flowers one day and then ignore me the next day. Then I say that, I go to bed, I wake up, and I've got this long text message, the crux of which was, how dare you try to make me feel bad for spending time with my friends? You're trying to emotionally manipulate me. Right. To which I responded, that would be true if you had told me at some point the day before or that day, you know what, I'm out with my friends, we're going to have some drunken, crazy adventures, you might not hear from me for a while, so don't worry about it, right? That's all you had to have said. And he doesn't respond. He doesn't say, yeah, I could have done that. I'm so sorry. I'll do that in future. Do you know what he does? He blocks me. Now, at that point, keep in mind, this is someone I feel like I'm falling in love with. No response. No response to a very easy question. Why didn't you just tell me you wanted space to hang out with your mates and I might not hear from you for a couple days? You get a block. At that point, I'm angry and I'm upset. So I texted him via iMessage. I said, did you just block me? Silence. I never curse at people, but I told him that was, in no uncertain terms, that was really messed up. Like, that was a really weird, messed up thing to do. And of course, do I get a response that day? Nope. The next day, I wake up and I'm trying to analyze, like, what went wrong, right? Like, because we didn't have an argument there, and there wasn't some sort of hint that something might be going south. The friend's comment of, is it the drugs, popped into my mind. And I was like, acts really, really nice, then disappears for a weekend, and then nothing. Then on top of that, I realized that one of the traumatic incidents he had gone through last year, the thing that actually kind of inspired me was he got arrested for drugs possession. He was on holiday in Thailand. He claimed, he and his friend were just kind of looking for some pot. It was laced with something else. Some police searched them. He got arrested. He went to trial. He went to jail. He got deported. But he had such a powerful mentality going through it. Like he said, he meditated a lot. He talked about, kind of criminal justice reform. And he talked about he still learned a lot from the experience. So he spun it in a very empowering way such that I didn't see it as a red flag. But, obviously when you're looking at everything in retrospect, it was like, oh, that was probably a hint and a half. And so I text a friend who dabbles in that world. I said, does that sound like drug use could be a part of it? And he said, yep, sure does. Sounds like it to me. Because when you're in those kind of off your face on drugs, you're just not thinking about anything else other than the drugs and the person who might be engaged in carnal relations with you. He didn't put it that articulately, but I'm trying to keep it family friendly. So then I ask another friend and he says, yes, it's probably drugs. And I ask a third friend who says, yes, it's probably drugs. And so at that point, I'm kind of like, oh, crap. And I'm gutted. I'm disappointed. It was sad. It was tragic in part. So this is where it comes back to, I wish I had a lesson for you guys, right? Because he was articulate. He was handsome. He was clean. He didn't look like a vagabond. Do you know what I mean? Like there was no way, but for me asking him, are you into hard drugs? There's no way I could kind of turn that into a lesson, which is what I originally wanted to do the podcast about. I have tried to interview some people who work in that area because I think they're unsung heroes of the gay community, but the one person told me no. Anyway, I'll find other people. That's on my radar. The next day comes and I get this long text message back on WhatsApp, so he's unblocked me, how I overreacted, and because of my overreaction, he doesn't want to date me anymore. So my first response to that is, were you on drugs this weekend? Ask me if I got a response. I did not. But boy, he went back to, you're overreacting, you're insecure, you're this, you're that. At which point, now I'm upset because I've been hurt. I'm disappointed. I'm furious. And partly, I didn't even know if he was safe, right? Because if he's in some drug-induced sex party, who knows what could be happening there? Because really dark stuff happens at those kinds of places. So I was concerned, and yet now it's like, it's all my fault. And so, of course, then I just throw back, well, why didn't you just tell me at the beginning that you were going to have a couple days with your friends and I might not hear from you? Dodges, you're so insecure, this, that. Okay, so it all goes back to, it's all my fault, so I should have known not to text him. And then I said, well, what about blocking me? And then he leaves me an audio note, and it was so glib. And it was so like, well, I was drunk and annoyed, so I just blocked you. That's what people do. I said, right. So if I'm annoyed at your lack of communication, then I'm a bad guy for letting you know I'm upset, and I'm trying to manipulate you, and I'm trying to be mean and this and that. But when you block me because you're drunk, then it's okay and it's not supposed to be a big deal and I'm not supposed to be upset by it. Do you not see the disparity? And then he literally, you could not believe it. He's like, you're selfish. And I was like, oh, good God. Because he was like, you won't let me have my time with my friends. I said, all of the drama would have been avoided if you had just said, hey, I want to spend the next 2 days with my friends. Now I put his feet to the fire. I said, here's what I think, what really happened. I think you want something serious, and when it came to you, you freaked out and destroyed the whole thing. Because, if I said men are afraid of commitment, who is shocked at that? Women have been saying it for millennia. And people in their minds can be very educated, articulate, someone enlightened, and then when the relationship is confronting them, they can get cold feet. And he literally just kept hammering, like, I just overreacted. And I said, I did. I said, look, I started to fall for you really hard after the flowers. What was a normal person supposed to interpret? How was a normal person supposed to interpret the silence, the one bitchy text, and then getting blocked? Any normal person would be upset by that. And of course, it just went back to, it's your fault, it's your fault. But again, every time he neglected my point. I left him an audio note, which he didn't listen to. And I just said, let's go through everything, right? You found someone who likes you, who tries to make you feel special, who cooks you dinners, who buys you presents. Not that I bought him like anything major, but you know what I mean? Like every time we've interacted, I know that we didn't have a lot of time, so I tried to make you feel special. This person's been dealing with inconsistencies because of your scheduling conflicts. I guess it's subjective, but gets upset at you not responding then blocking. And now it's all my fault. Do you not see anything in that? I mean, I was shocked how it just came back to, you should have known better. And it was like, I was honestly furious because he's read my book and he literally broke like 6 or 7 of the Grindr commandments. Not texting was a douche thing to do. That's commandment number 1. Take responsibility. He didn't do that, right? He didn't say like, oh yeah, I just completely dropped the ball in not texting you, or I could have texted you at any time while you were clearly getting upset, but I chose not to. No responsibility. Know thyself, aka, know if you really want to be in a relationship or you just want something casual. He broke that one. Thou shalt conversate. He broke that one. Thou shalt not be flaky. I mean, that's kind of debatable because when you say one thing and then you're disappearing, that's debatable. Thou shalt not heed the noise. I can't prove that one in a court of law, but I think he did it. In essence, I think he psyched himself out. So I was furious, right? And I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm beside myself with grief because I really wanted to build a relationship with this guy. He had so many wonderful qualities. And it was like my crime was getting upset at something that would have at least pissed off 90% of the population. So I'm trying to think, okay, I got to express this. I didn't have time to write it down. I was like, I'm going to put this in the podcast. I don't care if people hate me or not. But just before you think that I'm just on a soapbox about other people, it hit me, right? Because at first I had said to him, remember in the audio note, what if you had just changed your mentality slightly? And rather than condemning me, you thought, wow, this guy does all this nice stuff for me. He's concerned when I don't text him. Why don't I just alleviate the concern? Or why don't I have a little bit of compassion that he's got all these other wonderful qualities that me being me being absent-minded is driving him a little nuts. Because, I mean, and let's be honest, it was 4 text messages over 24 hours, right? I mean, that's not like I've had people send me 20, I've counted. But I thought to myself, what if he had just had a slightly different mentality? Who the heck knows? Now, I don't know if that was a smokescreen to hide the drugs issue, which, again, he didn't address, right? He didn't say. And usually with that kind of accusation, it's something where if you hadn't been doing drugs, you'd be like, how dare you? How dare you try to change the subject? I wasn't on drugs. You're just a jerk. But the thing that I find, the lesson that I'm bringing this to is, I don't know if it's narcissism or what, but I feel like what's really sabotaging the gay community in terms of relationships are events just like these. Someone does something mean, and then they'll justify what the mean thing that they've done using the smallest fig leaf. And in their eyes, it's perfectly valid. And even if the other person is in real pain, they don't care. So again, what if he had just changed his mentality and thought, first of all, I always give someone the opportunity to rectify bad behavior. I let them know, I'm like, you're coming across as insecure. Stop it. What if he had said that to me? I would have stopped it. We'd still be dating. Again, what if he had had a little compassion with, oh, wow, this guy who keeps doing all this wonderful stuff for me is just feeling a little insecure. Let me alleviate that rather than, oh, he's insecure. Let me cut him loose. I don't feel insecure. I know I'm great. I know I'm a catch. I was trying to deduce based on the evidence of him kind of not being available, whether or not he was genuinely brushing me off or we had a serious issue. But before you guys think that I'm getting a little bit too high on my soapbox, as I was reflecting on, this guy just sabotaged a major miracle by not communicating. And at any time in 1 of 10 places, he could have said, I'm just with my mates, everything's fine. Let's talk later. He could have said, yeah, I blocked you. I was drunk and upset. Sorry, let's talk later, right? Or he could have addressed the point of, if you don't tell me that you want distance, how am I supposed to intuit that as opposed to taking that as a sign to buzz off? So there was no lack of communication on his part. He used a fig leaf to justify something cruel. He had no compassion what I was going through. And then, he acted like he was making some big pronouncement and saying he doesn't want to date me. And it's like, yeah, I don't really want to date a crackhead either. And certainly not a crackhead who can't text. The issue I got was his sour mentality in that moment. I'm 100% clear sabotaged a miracle. 100% clear on that. I'm not saying everyone who dates me, I'm a miracle. I'm saying what we had was a genuine connection, and that was rare, and he destroyed it for nothing. And so I was originally going to make this be about shame on you gays who don't think in the moment, and you sabotage a great thing. So, of course, as I'm trying to get this theory out, I realize, it's all sour grapes. What hit me was, you've done that before to other people. And I looked at my last boyfriend and the reason we broke up, and I put this on my blog, so I'm not ashamed of it, but we got into a drunken fight. He tried to say, like, I had been offered a job in another country. I had temporarily moved away. I had asked him to move with me. I told him I would marry him. We got into a fight, and he was like, I'm going to find someone else, and I got nasty with him. I mean, I put the details on my blog. You can go look it up. But I met his nastiness with nastiness, and then I blocked him. And to be clear, though, at the time we were both drinking, that doesn't excuse it. That just gives you some context. So the next day, I tried to apologize, tried to make it up. He's never looked at me the same way since, right? Now, I could say that's a flaw, and I'll talk about that in my book. But it was like, wait a minute. You talk about other gay people lacking the ability to stop in the moment and really analyze what's going on, and you did the exact same thing. And so what if I had said those years ago, wow, I know you miss me. This is to my boyfriend who I just moved away from, and he's saying, I'm going to find someone else at night. He's being nasty. And what if I had said, wow, I know you miss me. I would do anything to be with you right now. Can we just talk about this when we both sobered up? That floored me because the answer was I don't know, because this guy, the current guy, I don't know if he's if he's into drugs or not, and that may have been a deal breaker anyway. I do know the last guy might have been husband material. So yeah, this flaky guy who might be a drug user, he sabotaged a relationship, but if he was into drugs, it was only going to be a matter of time before I found that out anyway, so the relationship wasn't going to last. I got clear on, holy crap. If I'd had the same mentality I'm condemning him and countless other gays for having, I might be married. And then I wouldn't be writing books and podcasts about how gay guys sabotage each other, because I would be happily married to a man that I used to think, hung the moon and the stars in the sky. Whew. So now we're cool. Like, we're not dating. And but I told him that, by the way. I said, look, I know this is out of the blue. I get what I did to you that night was really crazy. And I condemn gay guys for not seeing the forest for the trees and thinking they're really justified and then not being present to the other person's pain. And I totally did that with you. I'm a massive hypocrite. I'm sorry. And I'm present to, I didn't say like all the things that might be possible, but I said, I'm a little bit shocked by if I had had that mentality and changed and didn't respond to you the way that I did, thinking about what might have been possible. So I just left it there. And he said, it's fine. It's cool. It's all water under the bridge. She's cool like that. So there we are. The lesson to take home, if there is such a lesson. I certainly don't know. I don't have 5 tips to suss out a drug user. Clearly, that's going to be something if I feel like I'm falling for someone, I'm going to have to ask. Kind of weird, but there you go. The thing I want to be clear on is I freely admit I've been a hypocrite in this regard. That I've done it to other people, but then when other people do it to me, I act like it's the end of the world. And in theory, this is what I'm screaming and hollering and screaming the sky is falling on gay relationships because of this. So what I also got to get clear on is we're all human. And if what I think is really there is that guy was either covering up for the drug abuse, or he was scared that the relationship got too serious too fast. He's a human being. He's not a monster. He's not a horrible person. Now, he did something really stupid and it broke my heart. Like, I was really hurt because I really thought something was going to be possible. The same time, I've done the same thing. So we've all done it. What I wish we could do as the gay community is practice some compassion. Practice, people are going to mess up. People are going to make major mistakes. If you can't be with that, you're going to be single for forever. So again, I don't know if this made a difference or not. It was on my heart. I was really upset. I'm not going to lie. I feel a lot better having shared this with you guys. So yes, by the way, I'm now asking and begging, please like and subscribe if you like this podcast. I put it on YouTube, put it on iTunes, Spotify. Like, subscribe, leave me a kind comment. Definitely feel free to find me on social media. Instagram is best, at Grindr Survivor. If you want to come on and share your dating problems, I would love to hear from you. And until next time, try to be a little bit more mindful and try to have a bit of compassion to see where the other person's coming from. Thanks.